Welcome everybody to the Farmington Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, December 14th, 2021. We'll start with item number 1, and everybody please stand and pledge allegiance. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. Item number 2 is to allow High Peaks Alliance Executive Director Brent West and State of Maine Bureau of Parks and Lands Chief Planner Liz Petruska, hope I didn't butcher that too bad, to address the board regarding the Rail Trail Bridge project.
Yeah, thanks. When we talked last, we were discussing the contribution for the preliminary engineering plan. So I wanted to come back in, introduce you to Liz, who's our state counterpart, and give you guys an update and hopefully start seeing what is the process from the town side to look at a town contribution to the project. So since we met last, we have Calderwood Engineering. They're working on the engineering plan. They've done a lot of the work. They're getting to a point of sending it to the estimator to give us the final numbers. We've also contracted for an environmental narrative, which is a requirement for the federal grant. And Stantec's doing that. That's looking at all the permitting that the project would need. So we're still on track for that January 31st deadline for the EDA grant. And so that will be 80%. We're going to be asking for 80% of the project cost. And so we've just been working off the figures that were in the original engineering plan from 2007, but factoring in for inflation. So roughly we've been thinking we'll need about a $600,000 match. And we've been fortunate, I think Christian probably brought it up last meeting, that we had a commitment from the Onion Foundation of $300,000 for that. So looking at hopefully the town possibly matching that amount or some portion of that, and that would need to be a commitment to allow us to move forward with that grant application in January. As a requirement, one other update is a requirement for the grant application. We have University of Southern Maine, they did an economic analysis of the project, and for construction phase, they estimate this could bring into about 25 new jobs and about $1.5 million for construction phase. For long-term effects, increase in visitation, downtown spending, they estimated, they used some trail camera data they had from the Whistle Stop and Maine Office of Tourism data, and estimated that for long-term effect, this could have upwards of 11 jobs added to the economy and about an $800,000 a year impact. So just wanted to get your questions, get some input from you guys. I want to introduce you to Liz, just because you guys haven't met the state side of things, state partners on this, and hopefully set us up to be able to, once we have those numbers, really get hopefully a commitment from the town.
Yes, thank you for making time for us tonight. I know you guys have a busy agenda, so I really appreciate that, and I know Brent's a regular around here, but it's nice to be here in person and meet you all. The Bureau is really proud of the Whistle Stop Trail, and we know that that's a really important resource for members of your community, as well as a destination for visitors from throughout the region and really farther afield as well. This is a project that's been on our radar screen for many years, especially with an eye towards improving safety for snowmobile traffic. But it's something that's very well aligned with many of our Bureau priorities, from kind of providing recreation opportunities close to people and finding climate-friendly projects that offer transportation alternatives, and building on existing investments that are already in our communities by connecting to new resources and finding ways to attract new users to our resources as well. We feel that in terms of public funding for a project of this scale, this is really, the moment is now for this project. The Bureau will be the applicant to the Economic Development Agency for this grant. We have also, through our snowmobile program and our Maine Office of Outdoor Tourism, contributed some of the funding to help with the initial design plans and then the environmental narrative to go along with the grant as well. But I'd say the real commitment from the state side is really the long-term stewardship of this new infrastructure that we're putting in your community. Our off-road vehicle division maintains over 300 miles of trail throughout the state. Our snowmobile program in particular is really excited to see this project gaining momentum. And I think collectively we understand the responsibility we're taking on, both in terms of the construction phase of this project, but then also ensuring that this is a resource that is cared for long into the future. We are so appreciative of the support of High Peaks Alliance and other community groups. It's a really unique opportunity to be able to combine our state expertise and all of these local resources to take advantage of this funding opportunity, and really appreciate your consideration and support in helping us get there. So thank you.
We'll go alphabetically by height.
So I think you hit on it slightly. So the state's going to be responsible for the bridge long term.
Correct.
Okay. That's I was just curious on that because
Yeah.
it hadn't really been highlighted on who's going to maintain this.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
I think that's a little bit of a change of an attitude too. I think last time we looked into this, the state didn't want anything to do with it. So, which is nice. So.
You pick up my ear when you speak about financial commitment from the community, which I'm supportive of. I'm curious as to time frame that the project needs for a commitment and what that's supposed to look like, given that I don't have a lot of dollars at my personal whim to say right tonight, yes, here's the check. Tell me what you need for a commitment and what that needs to look like and by what time you need it.
Yeah, so it needs to be committed at time of application. Doesn't mean it needs to be available then, because if you look at, they'll take until September to obligate this, and then, you know, over this summer I would hope to get like the permitting out of the way, stuff like that, but I don't think construction probably could happen until next year.
When's the grant application deadline?
Yeah, so just, it's the 31st of January. What's happened is it's these ARPA dollars, and so they've come through pretty fast and furious, and that is a benefit to us in that it will allow us to hopefully be more competitive, because this project's pretty well set up, but it's also detracts because of the timeline, obviously. And so that's why I was hoping, and I have tried to keep coming in to get everyone on board, just so we, it's not be difficult to meet that in such a short time frame. So figuring out how we might do that is why I wanted to talk to you guys, just to figure out, talk shop, and get your ideas of how we could make any portion of that happen. Because that's really, I think, one of the more difficult things most applicants will be dealing with from a town level.
Well, and let me follow up on that then. Obviously, shy of a town meeting appropriation, we don't have a lot of latitude in dollars, although this raises item 3 on our agenda as to what board-specific latitudes we have as to that shy of a town vote itself, or must it include a town vote?
I would think it would need to have, I mean, the ultimate commitment of that, any commitment that we made at this point would need to be dependent upon approval at the town meeting.
Including how we might apportion the ARPA funds.
Correct.
Might that be included or not is our strategy.
I'm sorry, but so since this application would be asking for a full 80% from the federal government, is the most federal dollars that could be in the project. So any contribution that would match this grant would have to be from a local source or a state source.
We could
So like
still talk
ARPA
about
funds
that
you would be
night.
getting wouldn't be an available match unless like we went to a different grant after this one or something like that.
Would not be applicable.
Correct.
For this specific opportunity, because we're asking for the full federal apportionment.
Interesting.
So one thought was the town of Farmington, I asked your assessor, could put upwards of $185,000 from the TIF in an annual appropriation, and that's the largest amount you guys could appropriate. And this is directly in the downtown plan, so that, and in the comprehensive plan. So most of those things have been voted at a town meeting, so I don't know if that would give you the leeway you need.
Good,
Are you sure it's only 185? Because I thought we could pull up to the value of the actually downtown TIF, and at times we could actually withhold up to like $400,000 if we wanted to actually hold that money. And we actually, a lot what goes out of what gets pulled in to that TIF when the tax rate is set is actually when that happens.
I had requested, I think Christian was on that email string, but that's what the assessor said would be available in 1 year. Would be up to 185 of new assessment, or maybe there's,
Or new assessment?
maybe that's what the number he gave me, so maybe we can dig into that.
And
But-
I think that's worth
I'll
looking
check
to,
the
because I
TIF
think that
document.
amount is more than that. I don't think it's based off new assessment, it's actually the assessment of the downtown TIF.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to check the
Unless
actual TIF
So maybe
plan
that was
to-
just what was new this
see what
year,
that
not
is.
the
Right.
full amount of what they could do.
Because it's been that time, I gotta say, I know we had talked about that, and we've never done it, just because obviously it affects the tax rate.
Yeah.
We put 100, I think
125, I think.
125 is the most we've taken out in a year, but, I mean.
Yeah, it's interesting, because in
Yeah,
the
175.
downtown plan, it estimates the bridge, the total TIF costs
He was spoken for
could be upwards of 2.6 million for that item. So this would be a considerable smaller portion of that total.
Mm.
Like, if you look at everything that's in that TIF plan, the bridge project was obviously the largest considered at the time, and they have 2.6 in there. So I think that will actually be a fairly close number, but we really don't know until we get those new numbers.
And the follow-up to the TIF question was, I was gonna ask, you know, Charlie's sitting here, is there any way to leverage county TIF dollars if the trail is accessing the other trails that are in the, where that TIF actually exists?
Yeah, the TIF exists in the UT,
Right.
so,
I know that in the past, the projects have had to happen in the UT.
yeah,
but-
and they still do.
Okay.
I would love to see the language loosened, but, so I would say it's not likely.
Right.
But, Brent, correct me if I'm wrong, you need a show of support from the town. And if the town select board voted to, we are voting to put a warrant on the town, at town meeting to support this project up to X. Would that be sufficient?
They require a letter of commitment so the funds would be available when needed for the project. So I don't know if that would be enough. That might be enough for me to ask, maybe another funder to make the commitment with the understanding that you guys are working through your process. That would be a stretch though. But that would be one way to think about it, an idea I have, but yeah, so I could get better clarity from Alan, who's the EDA rep for our region, the guy who's in charge of our grant, of what would be considered enough of a commitment. I mean, if the whole board's in favor of it and they take a vote, but it's contingent on a warrant vote, that may or may not be good enough, I don't know.
I would expect from a federal perspective that it would be.
It would be, okay.
Would be sufficient?
Yes,
Yep.
I would think.
I would hope so. Just say we're-
Because really, I mean,
We
No
have
way around
a
it.
we have
what
two
they're
other
looking,
options.
yeah, what they're looking for is ultimately to know that there's community support and that there's some skin in the game. And, that, they have money that they need to put into valuable projects. And this certainly has been identified as one. I believe some of the local or state legislators to the federal government are also aware of the project and have talked about, ways that they can help move things along. But from the town perspective, I would think that would be about as strong as we could get, and the verbiage could also be contingent upon approval of the grant. So, I mean, it's going to be, obviously the town would have to vote for it, but then, if the grant's not forthcoming, the town would not be liable for the funds.
That makes sense, right?
Well, and that's the beauty of the commitment, is that the money doesn't get spent if the bridge doesn't get built.
Right.
Looking past this grant opportunity, I think we also have opportunities for like the Northern Border Commission. So let's say like this one didn't go through, we'd have Northern Border Commission as an opportunity. Both Congressman Golden's and Susan Collins' office has had a site visit, and they've said that they would be interested in helping out with a possible earmark process if they came all the way down to that. So it sounds like we have 2 or 3 ways to start getting at this and figuring this out. This is obviously the one that will pay the most federally.
Mhm.
So looking at, the commitment from the town, understanding that we're all, we all just want to get the bridge built is the goal. And the money we're asking from the town would just be direct project costs. So it's not going into like High Peaks isn't part of that budget right now, so.
And what does it do to the town? If that bridge is here, what does it do to West Farmington property values? What do they grow by? What is the return to the community long term? It's pretty significant. That whole whistle stop trail from behind the hospital into West Farmington, all of a sudden those backyards are all trail
So that would get us
connectors, and then over
$2
the
million
ticket.
for
Pretty exciting.
Basement match. Not at our way.
Otherwise than that, we can leverage all of the dollars remaining in our selectmen special project account.
Yes, we can for the next 25 years.
Well, yeah, and there are some considerations that we'll talk about during the next item that could also impact this,
Okay.
as far as revenue goes.
So what's the feeling of the board?
Remind us again the dollar commitment for us.
Well, so we're basing it off the old engineering dollars inflated to today's numbers. So that's like $2.8 million for the full project. So the match is 20%, which would be $560,000, but we've budgeted $600,000. So looking at matching that $300,000 we got committed from the Onion family is what we're looking to try to raise as the match.
Brent, have you heard anything else from the county? Did you speak with Sue Pratt?
I did talk to Sue Pratt, and I think like most of those conversations are more pertinent
2 to 2.
if we don't get this grant. Because this grant is looking for a full 80% of federal funding. So whatever our engineering numbers come to be, and I talked to the engineer, we're 2 weeks out from getting the preliminary plans back, because this has been, as you remember when I came earlier, it's been a pretty quick turnaround here. That will give us the real numbers we're applying to the grant by. So we could factor it as 10% or something if you guys would rather make a motion to that effect or something like that. But so this grant is 80% federal, so that's the cap on federal. So if we don't get this grant, I think maybe trying for some of the county money to match like Northern Border Commission would be a really smart move.
But you don't anticipate any for this particular project?
Well, the problem is the feds will only allow you to go up to 80%. So That's where we're looking
They
at.
won't, if the fact he's applying for
Yeah.
the EDA, he
Right.
can't use other federal
Yeah.
dollars to match that.
If it was a federal grant that only did 50%, we could then, give 50% and then ask the county if they would be investing the 30% or something like that.
Do we have any other volunteers, any other potential grants?
Well, I have had some conversations, but no hard commitments. There's one promising grantor. The issue to date is also High Peaks Alliance is doing most of this on faith. That will cover some of our costs too, but my priority is to get the match done first before we worry about that. But we have had a couple more conversations, but like the onion one was, I think, we're very fortunate to get such a big commitment from an individual family. So I just don't know where any of those conversations will land.
And the other piece of the kind of private philanthropy, which Brent is just doing a wonderful job at, is that we also would like to raise some kind of endowed maintenance funds to set aside, and that's an easier conversation to have with the private funders than public funders. So, really looking for opportunities like this to have folks contribute to the construction costs, so that if there are other funders on the private side, we can help bring them along to fund that phase, which is equally as important.
Well, because the hope is you have a bridge, it's engineered for 75 years, that you want that 75 years for the bridge to be well-maintained, welcoming, inspected, upkept, and so going out for grants every time you want to slap a coat of paint on is not the best method, I don't think, but.
You framed it well there. You're asking for 10% of the project cost.
Yeah,
So the
that's how
town
it
puts in
worked
$1
out right now.
and you get $9 coming to your own project. We take that, who wouldn't take that deal all day long?
The USM numbers were what got me the most excited. So they took the trail counter data from BPL at Schoolhouse Road and Farmington parking lot, and they did estimates of like if it was increased by like 25% visitation because of this bridge. That's what led to those numbers of $800,000 a year increased spending. So most of that benefit would probably be in Farmington. So if you think about it that way too, beyond the construction dollars and people staying here and renting and disregarding the construction impact, that annual impact just on the tourism dollars is a pretty good return on investment. If you're getting that every year for hopefully 75
3
years,
times what you put into them.
that's not payback pretty quickly. And those seem fairly conservative, because this bridge would be matched to I think the other bridge that's this long would be the Androscoggin Swinging Bridge in Topsom. So I think it'd be tied for like longest pedestrian bridge in Maine.
We could add a foot or two.
We
So
could.
if you go on like
We need to.
TripAdvisor, yeah, make it.
We'll make sure that.
How much is an extra 2 feet, Brent?
We'll connect it on Front Street.
But that one was built, I said this before, that one was built in 1893. So not only is it a 120-year investment, it's, we think we could pull it off now, 120 years later, is what, the hope is.
Well, and one thing that I'll interject, and it is part of the next item, but I think it makes sense to at least have it for understanding the context that this is occurring in from a financial standpoint. Based on my analysis as far as the impact of the solar farm on the one on Buzzy York's property on valuations and taxes, if you average, understanding that the first 5 years are weighted heavily in where we're going to receive the most benefit, and it sharply drops off after that.
Yes, it does.
That on average, over the expected 30-year life of the project, it averages about $540,000 of revenue a year. Now, there's a lot of different considerations to think about, whether it's fire engines or roofs or what have you. But that is there, and at least based on my my initial analysis on the state revenue funding formula, I don't believe that there would be a decrease in that revenue formula, but it's an odd thing. It kind of depends on a couple of factors that you really can't predict.
Right.
So.
Right.
Well, I'm trying to formulate in my mind what kind of a motion it would be and what we would say and to give some indication what our anticipated revenue source is as part of the motion. And I'm hesitant only trying to figure out the last part of that, given we aren't into our own hard numbers yet for our municipal budget. So I'm careful how I want to word what my commitment is suggesting on that. Because as you bring up fire engines and community center roofs and whatnot, make me feel a little queasy once in a while.
Yeah.
But again, I want to be supportive of some form of commitment to this. I just want to get the words right. So I'd look for some help from anybody.
We're looking for numbers, pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, I have a question. I am not ready to jump into this, as Steve just mentioned, about how much and where it might come from. Is to me, to consider this real seriously, is there's too many questions. You don't have the numbers in front of you for the engineering study,
Yep.
the actual cost. I've heard you say several times, your best guess, your best. Well, I don't like to do stuff with my best guess. If you can solidify those actual numbers and use real scenarios, now you can get into the nuts and bolts of it to say, will town may choose to bite off a certain amount of that or whatever. But right now, I don't feel comfortable. I don't know. I know where it's going, what it's going for, and I support the concept and the idea of the whole shooting match. But financially is where I'm a little holding back, because I need to know, as you do, I'm sure, what those costs are.
Yeah, and I think that's really reasonable. I expected tonight, I wanted to get, my goal for tonight was get the board really talking, flush out any issues, get to a point of like what,
Town meeting.
like, because of our timeline in January, I didn't want people to be feeling rushed when we like needed a commitment. So my expectation was a little bit of that, but also, you know, it's one of those things that we could contingent it on, you know, a percentage or coming back or giving Christian the leeway to figure out a plan or something of those natures. Because the one thing I keep thinking about is, having grown up in New Portland, everything you know, the post office, the store, everything that I grew up next to is crumbled into the ground. And so it doesn't seem like there's many opportunities to do investments that are proactive. You know, put it in perspective, anyone familiar with Strickland Mill in New Portland? You know, I stood outside the bus stop for that. I watched the Archer girls watch their father go into the mill the last time. So, I mean, I think we all have stories like that. The Bass Shoe Plant, you know, the H&G Winter Mill in New Portland, the Strong Wood Mill. You know, all these things have crumbled away and the landowners have changed. And so from this, it seems like recreation is a way to not replace all those big industries, but some way to find some vibrancy. So I envision the bridge to be a place where, you know, Farmington postcards taken, UMF students are proposing on it. You know, I see it as a huge asset. It's a connection to 14 miles of trail. It's connecting to the hospital, Tickham Mountain. You know, you could go to mainly outdoors at UMF and ski to Tickham, you know. So when I hear talk about there's always going to be a roof, there's always going to be stuff, there's not many options to do a good investment. So whatever you guys need, that's what I want to figure out, because I want to figure out how to get it done. So if you guys say you need this, that's the thing I'm working on. But I'm just here to build trust, and so we're not just coming in the last minute. It's a group project. We're all in this. We all want the same thing, I think.
Brent, when could you have some numbers?
We have a commitment. I just checked in with them. They have the plans done. They're putting the details on them. They go to the estimator, and I have a commitment by Jan 1. We have the preliminary engineering plan. Same timeline you guys committed to when we got the 5,000.
So to have an answer from Mike.
Yeah, well, that was the hope, is that in these next 2 weeks, maybe the town could get in a position to know these answers too. And then we have hard numbers.
So that would put us at the January 11th board meeting. Just for,
Which gives us plenty of time.
yeah.
Because I see Christian and I were both trying to noodle here on our margins on wording. So something along the lines where the board would vote to offer a warrant article at town meeting to raise and appropriate some dollar amount in match towards the rail trail bridge project, dependent upon ultimate grant approval. Something along that line.
And the amount not exceeding
Or,
Right.
Yeah.
300,000.
Josh?
It doesn't sound like we need to do anything tonight.
I don't think
No.
so.
I think we
No.
wait till the January 11th to make our
Get
vote.
the hard
because we'll
numbers
have
and-
hard numbers based off. I think
Yeah.
everybody, I'm gathering that everybody around the table is supportive of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And,
think it's a good thing. We've been talking about this for a long
And
time.
having tonight's discussion broadcast may stimulate some citizen support,
Yeah,
input,
absolutely.
inquiries, messages and whatnot that we
Yeah.
can think about
Encourage
between
it.
now and the 11th.
Well, and I know, having talked to President Cern of the universities
Mhm.
in support of the project, and he's mentioned that it's important to make the university as attractive as possible to students and people, and that's a part of the draw to UMF is the outdoor recreation, and this would certainly fit into that. So,
Maybe they'd like to donate to the cause too.
yeah, well, they gave an easement.
We do, can I put it in the spot? Sure. We do have Farmington Snowmobile Club here. They are supportive of the project. We're looking to meet with some of the other clubs that are connective. It seems like there's broad support, obviously, from the snowmobile groups. And it's something that I think has other people excited about it too. It seems like bikers, skiers, anyone who wants to get outdoors, really.
Yep, no, I agree.
So do we need to move to waive or step by item 2 until the 11th?
I believe.
Yeah, I think we can just,
I'd so make that motion.
Second.
been a motion and a second to table the vote on High Peaks Alliance and State of Maine, I don't know, grant.
Regarding the rail trail bridge project.
Yeah, that, regarding the rail trail project. Any other questions, comments? I do thank you guys for your time coming in.
Thank
I think
you.
you answered a lot of questions tonight. I'm really glad to see this coming, so, Josh.
And Christian's gonna pursue about the TIF funding for the
Yeah.
downtown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I made a
Yeah.
note
You'll have
to
all
look at the
Yeah, because I'd be curious
TIF
about that.
in detail and see what the
Yep.
funding options are from that, so.
Perfect, okay. Right.
Good.
All in favor? Thank you. Good. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, no, thanks for having us.
So,
Yeah.
You're welcome to stay for a stimulating agenda.
Absolutely.
I'm headed all the way back to Waldeboro. So. Get a head start, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving along to item number 3, to
Thank
discuss
you.
possible uses of American Rescue Act, ARPA funds / broadband. I'm guessing that's a hint.
Do you have that document that I asked you? I emailed it to you.
I don't think I saw
If
it.
you printed that.
I can report.
You want to go something different?
No, that's fine.
okay.
Nancy's just gonna print a document. She hadn't seen the email that I asked for it to be printed, but basically just outlines a few different options that are the main focuses of what the money can be used for, give some of the nuances that are sort of that run throughout the final rule, and just conceptually, it presents some information. As I was thinking about this, we've already received a variety of proposals from nonprofit groups throughout the area, and so, and then we mentioned there a variety of other potential the ongoing needs and operational costs of the community. And so, my thought process was, we have $819,849.19, and so my thought is to determine what other needs or smaller needs we might have that we want to target some funds to, and either determine an amount or a percentage of the funds to do that with. And then think about or talk about what the main focus of the ARPA money would be. I think one of the big things that we've been in conversation with Charlie and the Greater Franklin Economic Development Council. I'm working on setting up a meeting with Sue Pratt, who's the ARPA coordinator for the county, and they're $9 million.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And so I thought that would at least give us an idea on how we might want to proceed. I think one of the options that in my research and the board also recently approved the proposal to update the study on broadband in the community, especially based on the needs from remote work, business in general, and distance learning that we've experienced over the last few years. To get a real idea of what options may be available for the community with improving broadband service, and I think that that's a way for all the ships to rise on one tide.
Agreed.
This I think it's a way to attract remote workers. It's a way to attract businesses. It's a way to those remote workers hopefully would be coming and establishing residency and using the rail trail bridge and whatever else. The biggest suspended bridge.
Yeah.
And like 2 feet.
We'll have to have a sign made for that.
That's right. And with broadband, the goal of the federal government is to really have symmetrical upload-download speeds of 100. That's not always, possible, but this study's going to help us get proposals from vendors who, will be able to see what is possible.
Yep.
And then there are resources with the Connectivity Authority and Connect Maine through the governor's initiatives that we can look at for additional guidance and support on the project. So, looking at public health and economic impacts with the eligible uses, really there's 4 main goals in this. One is to address or mitigate the negative mental and physical health aspects that have arisen from COVID, as well as the negative economic impacts that have occurred, and not just ones that have occurred, but the risk of long-term impacts from things that have happened, future risk. Then there's also public health aspects, mitigating the spread of the virus, options to improve public health programs, and they also do talk about impacting certain industries that have been hit very hard. So travel, tourism, hospitality, all of those which you know are important in the area, are things that can be utilized. I know that in the past, so, you know, some communities in the area and throughout the state have utilized some or all of their funds for premium pay for essential workers, which in effect, premium pay is meant to offset some of the unpaid for risk that they have assumed in serving the communities, you know, during difficult times, typically low-wage jobs, that type of thing. But also, you know, jobs that include public safety, those type of things. And then broadband, well, water and sewer infrastructure, but broadband is included in that infrastructure area. And so, you know, just I put some numbers together as far as, you know, some $500 increment amounts of premium pay, what the total cost would be, and then what dollars that would leave for other projects such as broadband. Similarly, just really for reference, you know, if you look at the percentages on the left-hand side, that gives you the idea of how much money would be available for targeted dollars, whether it was nonprofit or any of these other uses outside of broadband, and again, what the main project funding would be. So that's you know where we're at. Any of the options that really the consistent theme throughout the final rule is that anything that we do, basically it has to address some item that has been recognized as the key areas that and provide justification as to, we have to identify what the problem is and say how this is, you know, how our project or action is going to reasonably address those concerns.
Now, after we do that, we don't have to send it out for it to be approved.
No.
Right? They just, I'm assuming somebody will be behind us checking this stuff, so if they raise, you know, a year down the road, well, yeah, we don't really like that project.
Yeah.
That doesn't meet.
There's reporting goals that are to be met by, I believe, I want to say it's April, end of April of this year, and so.
That's for the first half?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll be letting them know, like, you know, what our thoughts are for the projects by that time, and be able to get input on, you know, if anything won't fly, or on the positive side that it will.
Okay.
And then we can go from there.
Okay. I was just curious about that, so we're not stuck time from now holding on to a huge bill that we gotta come up with the money for.
We'll make sure that that's whatever we decide on are approved uses, and get the supporting facts and justification that we need to get approval.
Perfect. Steve?
So am I right in thinking, both Christian and Charlie's still here too, there's an emphasis on sustainability, in that we're not going to use a pot of money to start this effort, but year two, sorry, couldn't support it and it's now gone?
Correct.
There's a theme along that line.
Yeah.
Pretty much one-time money, one-time projects, what they really want.
Right.
And not dollars to simply reduce tax
Right.
rate.
Correct.
Or spend it all just on highway, although I'd love to do that.
That you're absolutely correct, and the other option is one that, I mean, just based on our financial position, we wouldn't need to utilize is replacing lost revenue. So
Right.
some communities in the country that may be attractive too, but fortunately we're not in that situation right now.
That was a good thing.
We can move money from a project we had on the books that qualified. We could take that money to do that, and then take the money we had funded to go somewhere else.
Where's the pea under the coconut in that?
Exactly.
That's Josh.
I'll refrain from comment.
That's how it works.
That's probably prudent.
I don't know. I think it's critical that if we are to use these dollars, the only thing so far that I've thought of, other than maybe broadband, which I'm still trying to wrap my mind around the broadband issue, it sounds like infrastructure-wise, possibly, that would save us writing for grants in the future would be the wastewater treatment facility. And I think we have a lot of aging pipes out there that should be, Steve should, I'm sure he's grasped on, but I can think of, it just seems like the infrastructure that we have in the ground right now, I'm sure is failing at certain spots.
And a lot of the, the goals are to provide, clean water and mitigate, pollution impacts and that
Right.
type of thing. And a lot of the efforts in that area also focus on improving security for cyber attacks on wastewater facilities or different things. So
Yeah,
there's a variety of
okay.
different uses there.
Right.
Yeah.
Or-
Not that that's our main
Right,
concern.
so would that be a possibility? In other words, so if we're improving so that we don't have leaking of sewage
Yep.
when it passes by the river or another body of water. To me, I think, obviously, I think the last project we did down there that was major, we had to apply for a federal grant. So to me, it seems like if we can use this money, improve, don't have to go through all the hoops. And
Well, one thing that may be prudent would be to, when Mr. Millett's available, to talk about the general history of grants. I believe he's been fairly successful in obtaining those, and as always, we're looking for the best arrangement of where to use which dollars, so that, if there are other grant dollars that we're likely to be able to utilize for the wastewater, and there's something, else within these options that we want to use that we could. So, we just want to look at whether that option is there to fund the wastewater.
And then I had another question in regards. So in regards to broadband, I know Charlie's talked about this a lot. So say we run, I know there's a lot of fiber already in the town of Farmington. Like it runs right by my business on the Wilton Road. It's all fiber. Fiber runs by my house. So all I'm wondering is, so if the town invests in broadband, right? So what are we investing in? Are we investing that we have a company put a bid in to provide a certain amount of material all over? Are we looking to say, little Joe, do you want high-speed internet? Are we going to reduce their bill? What is I understand we all say everybody needs access to high-speed internet,
So that's
but the
another-
reality is, what does that even look like?
So one portion of it is the affordability aspect, and really it's kind of, I guess, flip sides of the same coin. So
Right.
when we receive the study back from Casco Bay Advisors, we'll have an idea of exactly what our infrastructure is and where we would have the most benefit in expanding that, and what, when we get options from providers, what the actual, what I want to see is a cost per mile or a cost per number of subscribers that we could be able to wrap our heads around. And some of the providers are fairly limited in what they offer in terms of fiber in town. And there's a number of different technologies that can be used in addition to fiber to really maximize the number of people that we can reach. So I think we're supposed to receive, I believe by the end of this month or shortly thereafter, I think Casco is going to have their project done.
That'd be good.
And then
Be good to
we'll
see.
be able to see, what, really is there. And then it's a matter of, it's fairly straightforward to be able to extrapolate an economic impact and do a cost-benefit analysis.
Right, because obviously there's a lot of hindrance for these companies to say there's 3 more houses, 4 more houses down this road, but
Right.
they're
And that's
4 miles in between each, so it's not cost effective to run the high-speed internet out that far because they're never going to utilize it or never going to get their payback on it.
Yeah, and that's a part of, and Charlie, feel free to chime in here. You know, it's a part of, I mean, you can either say, you know, what's it, Joey?
Yeah. I was trying to come up with Mike's name, and I couldn't remember what he...
Yeah, that was Julio.
Julio. All right.
Julio's busy working.
So, you know,
off,
for
Julio.
little
Come on.
Joey, you know, if the town is making an investment in the broadband infrastructure, that makes the ultimate cost of entry lower for the providers. So it makes it more attractive for them to be able to come in and offer those services. The flip side is that, you know, you can also do programs where, you know, if it ends up being, and I'm just totally making up a number here, but, you know, if it's $70 a month or $80 a month, and we want to set aside funds to, you know, pay so that we make sure that the internet doesn't cost more than $50 a month, you know, for folks, that can be done.
Josh, those are all good questions, but first I want to also commend you for investing in that study, because that will answer those questions, or it will give you the information for which you can then decide what do we want to do
Right.
with this. But speaking of the ARPA funds, and in addition to the ARPA funds, we know there are federal dollars cascading into states to affect a broadband solution in rural America. Those dollars will only go to the communities that are investing in their own solutions. So the fact that you've got a plan, you will have a plan, you will have a game plan, you'll be able to attract providers, and with a sound request for proposals, it'll be, you know, apples to apples, and then you can elect with that information to do what you wish. And should you know, pick a route and go with it, the fact that you have a plan and you're willing to allocate some of your funds and have skin in the game, you are in a far better position to compete for those federal dollars, because they're coming, but they're only going to go to towns that have plans and are willing to share the investment in their own solution.
Sort of shovel ready, so to speak.
But willing to invest in their own projects. That's really, those ARPA dollars will magnify coming back to you, what you can attract.
Yep. And that includes money from Connect Maine. That,
Yes,
you
it's
know,
all-
could also reach out
When I
to.
talk about the federal dollars, they're coming into the state and they'll be distributed through the state with a scoring criteria.
And I believe the recent infrastructure bill that was passed, I believe that has additional broadband dollars in it, if I'm correct.
It does, but again, those dollars will come into the state
Right.
and be dispersed through the singular agency, Connectivity Authority.
Right, but I mean, like, you know, to Charlie's point, if, you know, if there is an approach that is appealing to the board and, you know, a decision's made to move on that, it makes the probability of being able to attract the additional dollars that have been approved that are coming into the state. I believe it was 200 and something million,
Yes.
if I remember,
Yeah,
280, 260.
And it sounds like a tremendous amount, but
There's a lot of work to do.
a lot of work to do, and the high level cost for the state, to elevate the whole state to where it needs to be,
Yeah.
600 million. So this 200, it's good, but
To start.
towns and providers have to be willing to
You know,
make up the difference. And if you have a plan, you're going to be tracking those providers.
thank you.
Yep. More questions and/or comments?
Didn't we discuss the ventilation system at the community center?
And that is another potential option. I think the ventilation system in this building would be a more likely candidate.
Just need-
I would have to research and get some more information as to the airflow qualities within the community center and what the proposed changes to the roof and ventilation systems would would do to that in order to be able to connect the dots for the federal government and show the justification.
That's a big nut.
Yeah.
It is.
It's gonna be done.
It's imminent.
One way or the other, it's going to be.
Yeah.
But keep in mind with that, that especially in the first few years, it's a little higher, but we want to sort of balance out the revenue,
Mhm.
I think, in our thinking over, the 30 years to think, okay, we're not going to get 1.4 million this year. We're going to get 540,000 this year,
Yeah.
and bank some of that for when the values start going down.
I agree. Yeah.
But that's a significant amount of funds towards the roof, police vehicle reserve funds, fire reserve funds, so on. So
Stuff that we, yeah.
that's going to need to be taken care of.
Yep. Yep.
Down the road.
Well, as
Michael.
I mentioned, I don't know if it was last meeting or not, that we start to work on this and make a list. And it's on the agenda to talk about, discuss what we're gonna do with the funds. And there's a lot of, we've already got 10 or 12 excellent ideas. But I'm wondering if we perhaps shouldn't keep a running list of those things that are mentioned. And, well, if we just start with you and the selectmen, working on that and looking at it, oh yeah, I remember he mentioned that, and yeah, and adding to it, and understanding what each one is, that eventually you might reach out to if you chose to reach out to the community to see what they thought the money should be used for.
Absolutely.
And then you're not reinventing the wheel all the time. You've got space there to add more to it. But one I would not have thought of that Josh brought up was that, yes, there's underground utilities that we have that haven't been looked at forever. Should be. Well, here's an opportunity. If it gets put on the consider list, then it gets considered. And I think that's the best way to brainstorm this, because you're gonna do this several times, but pretty quick come budget time, you're gonna say, now it's time to execute, do something. And then we all don't go, well, what are our options? And you have to reinvent the wheel and go all over it again. I think at least me, I like to see something, what we've discussed, what we're thinking of, and bring it to us. And we'll just keep adding to it. Then if it comes down to prioritize, pick the top. Well, don't take too long to spend that. Don't take, how quick can you spend 400,000? Oh, let's see, bing, bing, bing's all gone. So then you get to look at it that way.
Yeah, and I think, ultimately, the ideas, I put forth a few. I've extrapolated the ones from the federal documentation, and that the board can certainly put forth which ones it would like to explore on the list, and then we can begin looking into those more and get more information so that they can be considered from the consider list.
And it might be just one of those ones where we end up having a meeting just for that. We just have a meeting off our normal meeting schedule, and that's just what that meeting is for. So I would assume that it's gonna take a considerable amount of time to.
Yeah, this is the tip of the iceberg, this conversation.
To start getting this going, so.
I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, obviously, he brought up the point about the town meeting. So, I assume what we would be doing, so if the community center, that happens to be the project, roof, air handling system, somehow we make it all the stars align and it works. I assume we put that into the budget and then state that the revenue from the art funding would be going towards that and wouldn't actually be affecting taxation. Is that how that is going to be
Yeah.
And then the people will be voting yay or nay.
Well, and I mean, ultimately, you know, I believe on the warrant, there's always an article that allows the board to expend revenues received from federal, state, and other entities, so,
Yeah.
you know, but as far as a community acknowledgement of, you know, the desire for where to go with the funds, yes, I
Is
think,
that how that would?
I would think it would be prudent.
Okay. Not that I guess it needs to, but.
Could you say that in a different way? It was my understanding, we have the authority to spend this 400,000.
The selectmen.
So say we decide that we're gonna put it on the bridge, and that's it, done, boom, that's where it's going. What did you just say, that you would, at town meeting, you don't need the town's
Well,
approval to do that?
as long as the warrant article for continuing
Right.
to allow the board to spend federal funds is approved, then technically you can spend the federal funds.
Yeah, it was approved at the last meeting, so
Right.
it would carry through till the next meeting.
Correct.
So
But
we
then,
do
you
have
know,
the
Technically,
authority.
yeah, it would.
I'm kind of putting that back to the board too, to say, you know, if you wanted to have, you know, a community validation of the direction that, you know, that you could go, you know, that would be an option.
Well, the
Ideally,
ob-
the community would support what we put forth.
Well, the opposite of that would be of the money that comes in from the solar farm,
Mhm.
and you want to take 400,000 of that and put it to the bridge. We can't pull, that needs to be voted at
Correct.
town meeting by the people, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
We can't take that
Yes.
money and spend it,
Absolutely correct.
right? But this federal money, this grant money that's coming, we can.
Yep.
Okay,
Sorry if I threw you a curveball.
well,
Mr. Fogg.
you did, and I don't hit curves well, but once I settle in, plant my feet, keep my head down, I'm all set.
Okay, good.
There's a commercial with that right now, too.
But it's, many communities, given the realization of the board's authorities to spend those monies, have done, like what the county did, it hosted, you know, multiple public gatherings for input and comment and whatnot, and then brought that back to the governing body to say, thank you for that, we now decide item 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
And I would encourage you and all the other municipalities to continue with that input. And the fact that they've chosen an ARPA manager, big step forward. And Christian, sitting down with her, conveying your priorities, you know, you're gonna find you're gonna find public support for certain things, and then you'll also have an opportunity to find mutual benefit and sharing with the county on some projects. So you're
And other towns.
amplifying those dollars.
So, I mean, we could certainly organize whatever number of those types of meetings that the board
Yeah.
felt was prudent.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely, I think it's a good idea.
Do we need a meeting or put it out there to send in
We could also set up
suggestions?
We could always do that, too.
Just to,
we could set up a survey monkey.
Yep.
I mean, like a survey. I mean, I see
Yeah,
like
it's just-
that would give people an option. Either they can email it, drop it off,
Yep.
mail it.
Yep, put our phone numbers on it.
Yeah,
all
like
that
yours.
stuff. Yep, that's okay.
Put Josh's number on it.
You can. I'd be like, who? I don't know.
No, yeah, no, I agree, I like that, and if,
Yep. And in that, thank you, John.
yep, right.
See you, Charlie.
In that public approach, we're gonna do it by a survey monkey or post it on our website to come in and whatnot. There needs to be, because we're obviously struggling on this, the general public trying to figure out what are the eligible parameters, what can it not be used for? Oh,
Exactly.
just reduce my taxes, so that they have some reality to say, well, given that, maybe I would suggest this might fit, that might fit.
Defining it's gonna be the hard part to the
Yeah.
public.
Yeah. And whether you define the parameters and then ask for general input, or if, you know, certain types of projects are noted and, you know, community, you know, or both, you know, the community could say, out of these projects, we think this, or this, and we could provide parameters for them to provide other ideas.
Yeah.
guess I'm at the point though, still right now, that I would like to see, have the town manager look into the sewer department options, broadband in the community center, or this building's air handling. You know, I think it'd be nice to get some, or can those pass or can they not pass?
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, will they pass the mustard or not? So that's where I'm kind of at still tonight. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
fine with if the community wants to weigh in and survey and,
Yep.
but I would like to see are those even an option?
Mhm.
Because I know it seems like we've kicked it around a couple times,
We
but
have.
haven't like gone anywhere with it. We're
I
selecting
know.
field.
We'd even talked, when we first figured out we were gonna get some of this money, I know we had talked to the sewer department, or about the sewer department, about maybe putting some of the pumps that we know are gonna fail in the near future
Buying a new pump.
on the shelf, why we don't have to do that later on, and stuff like that, so that we might be able to tie that in as well.
Or the clarifiers or
Right.
presses or
Yep, you know,
whatever
anything-
it is to reduce, because I know some of that, obviously, if the equipment's updated, it helps with how much gets
Yep.
phosphorus and all that gets dumped into the river, so.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's certain, and that, you know, there's no doubt that, you know, infrastructure to facilitate clean water and, you know, reducing pollution or what have you, effluent, that's certainly within the parameters of ARPA. So, yeah, we can,
And then the broadband will know the roof studies coming.
Yeah, study.
Yep.
And then the community center air handler,
yep.
which might wrap in the roof.
What's that?
Which might wrap in the roof.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my
could have a
initial
place to put
thought
Right.
or hope.
Right. But I mean, it'd be good to get,
Yeah.
I would like to know anyways if
Yeah.
that's an option or not.
Mm.
But
Maybe cheap,
That's
just do
just
everything
me.
as one. Good deal. You all set with us?
The community center and the wastewater options, was there a third? You had mentioned?
well, we were
Just
gonna
with
find out about
broadband.
broadband, but either the community center or you mentioned this building as well,
Yeah.
so. I know that Dick had actually mentioned that in the past.
We have-
At other meetings.
Somebody coming in to do some work that probably could go under that.
Yeah, and I had someone come in and assess this one for air quality, so they could probably do the same for
Yeah.
the community.
And that's the biggest thing. I think it's if you can get some type of data that shows what the airflow is
Mm.
and what it needs to be and
Right.
the difference, then
Right.
you know you can make a case.
Right, so, and I know that the previous town manager in other meetings had mentioned at some point in time,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they will need to be changed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it seems like it was when we started talking about.
I think so.
Putting those in, it seems like we started talking about, well, that
How the air
elephant is
moves
coming
in the
in.
building and.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so,
Perfect.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Does paying down indebtedness on some of our loans fit this category, like our fire department loan, rolling
Don't think
stocks?
so.
Not for the ARPA dollars.
Not for that.
No.
No.
The increased revenue from the solar farm could be,
We don't have a lot of debt though, actually, we're
Utilize.
fairly fortunate.
We are very fortunate.
and we
When it
did
comes to
pay
that,
off
yeah.
the Public Works garage about
We do
3
not
months
pay
ago.
off. Nope.
So that's $50,000 a month that's
Nope.
no longer being spent. So,
No. Then I credit tax. We don't do that.
No, it doesn't. Okay. And you.
All right. Moving along to item number 4, another riveting conversation. To review and approve the cost of living adjustment, otherwise known as COLA, for town fiscal year 2022. Any motion to adjourn at this point?
How about a hot dog?
You-
Thank you. Thank you.
So, the last conversation that we had on this, not all board members were here. We wanted to make sure everybody was. So from then till now, we actually had a upwardly revised forecast. The November number came in at 0.8%, you know, being added to the annual total. And so the model that's being used is projecting another 0.8% for next month, which puts the projected COLA for 2021, but you know that would be included into 2022's budget at 7.3%. And I believe Mr. Bunker mentioned some items that in the past that that the board had looked at that and gone with what it was. And he wanted to also make sure the full board was available to talk about it, so.
Aren't the feds forecasting something like 6.2? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, perhaps for next year, but they're also looking, they usually look at the, I believe that the number they're looking at goes back to, right now it would go to November of last year. They look at the 12 months prior, and we're looking at the calendar year. So. But there is projected, no, I mean, at least from the economic chatter I've heard from various financial sources, you know, radio, internet, TV, what have you, that you know, the trend is anticipated, I believe, to be a little bit more moderate in the coming year.
That would be wonderful if that would actually happen.
That would be. I realize that this is. And were you facing Nancy for the photo when that 7.3% was read?
I wanted to see your face on that one.
Yeah, we were
I wanted to
anticipating
see
that.
We were hoping for a
I
Kodak
know.
moment.
I think all of our eyes went.
Right, I know.
I am not surprised. I'm actually surprised it's not more than 7%, just based off business and
Yeah.
the cost of goods
Mhm.
being purchased.
Yeah.
And one of my companies I buy from, most of their products is 18% higher now than it was the start of the year.
Yeah.
So, and that's just one. So,
And we've certainly noticed it in the construction industry
Oh,
and
yes,
the town
yeah.
projects that we've done.
Right.
And it's definitely more than 7.3% there.
right,
Go to the grocery
So-
store.
Oh, well, that too.
right. So I'm surprised it's only 7.3. But my question actually is, what is this? You came up with the 7.3 based off nationally? Was it regionally?
Yeah, so it's based off of the consumer price index for, they call it the urban number, but it's basically a market basket of goods that they just go out and shop each month, and that's what they use. The fluctuation of those goods, you know, includes a variety of different things, but the fluctuation of that is what we refer to as the inflation. It's how those prices change on that set.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah.
I just know it can be calculated, like certain regions have different levels of inflation. So that's why I was wondering, is it like a northeast number that you're using, that's where the data's coming from? Is it coming from, say, the southern part of the country?
This
or
is
it
this
just
is a national number.
the national average?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I was wondering, like, where the numbers. And then that's an average for the.
Correct.
Yeah.
Of all the various regions.
Okay, all right.
It's I mean, because they look at, you know, they have particular areas that they, you know, have already identified as centers that they use to measure, you know, the prices in.
Mm.
So,
Just to add more numbers to the debate, I was
excellent.
doing some research in here too, looking to see the anticipated Social Security benefit increase for 2022 is 5.9.
Oh, we're actually going to increase it.
Which for
Unfortunately, Part B
Social
will
Security
be
is-
about 6.9, so you'll be in a minus category, but
Yeah.
can't have it all.
Just some would be nice.
and I'm not sure I'm personally at this point not bound by this number right here. I know we need to come up with something because our department heads and our managers need to calculate its impact on our budget discussions coming up. Sometime somewhere between 0 and 7.3, we need to see what we're comfortable with, what the public's comfortable with as being reasonable.
Go ahead, Josh.
For history's sake, what was it a year ago?
I would have to check, but it was very low. It might have been like 0.2, or, I mean, it was like 2% maybe. The level that we're at right now hasn't, it's at a 30-year high. It hasn't been since the early 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a significant uptick.
Oh, most
No
definitely.
doubt, yeah.
Huh. Wonder what the factors are.
Well,
I'm being sarcastic.
people have gotten
Depends on who you talk to.
stimulus money. There's still demand for goods. It's the end of the year. I don't think demand's going to go down, and then a variety of different supply chain issues that are just causing the perfect storm.
Nothing perfect about it.
I do know, for as long as I've been on the board, there's only been one time that we didn't go what the COLA was, and that's because it was a negative number. I do remember that. That was quite a few years ago.
Yep.
Now, we did raise it up. I want to say we raised it to 2%, 2 or 3% for that year. We don't have to like this number, but this is a number that's in front of us. And, like I said, in years past, we've gone with it, good, bad, or indifferent. I think overall, we fared pretty well with it. So.
Well, where you see it is, it's whatever we vote to do, then your department heads, as they do the budget, you're gonna see it reflected in their wages and go, nothing we can do about it.
No.
My budget just went up due to cost of living, due to insurance, and several areas where they just go, sorry, nothing I can do about that. So once we make a decision, then the decision is made, correct? It goes, then you're gonna take it to the.
Correct.
Budget.
Whatever the number is will be plugged into the budget.
Yeah. So.
And, I think there's two things to consider here. I mean, one is that, for many of our employees, even the new ones, but, certainly for the ones that have provided many years of good and faithful service, this is a way of treating them with, I think, some form of fairness or equity. And, from a, if you're looking at, well, yeah, this is going to cost us 7.3%, what do we get out of that? I think also on the flip side, that speaks towards retention of talent. And, we just had one position transition to another community, and that was a significant factor.
And if you don't go with what you've done traditionally,
Right.
and say this number's too big, we're not gonna give it to these employees, they're not worth it. Well,
Yeah.
retention is a problem, it'll only get worse.
It will get worse.
I would make a suggestion or a motion that we approve it at the 7.3.
Correct. I'll second that. So there's been a motion and a second to accept the projected COLA of 7.3. Mike's having a meltdown over there.
He wanted to do it.
No.
No, go ahead.
I couldn't hear what he said.
Oh.
So until he said, I didn't know what he had, I didn't hear the motion, so that's why I chuckled when you.
Been a motion and a second for the projected COLA of 7.3%. Any other questions or comments? Josh?
Just thinking I've been curious about for years, is there another way to do a cost of living adjustment?
I mean, I suppose we could come up with a market basket of goods and
I'm just curious.
send you out shopping.
No, I'm just wondering if there's any other, from your history.
Yeah, I mean,
is there other things, other states do different things differently? Or
I have
they
not
just go
seen
by
anything
COLA?
differently. I mean, usually just like any data, you look at it and you look at what is it made up of, what are the strengths and the limitations and the assumptions that are made within that. And so, typically that number's been sort of the hallmark that's used as an average.
Yeah. Okay. That's it.
But we could make our own.
Well, I didn't say making our own. I just didn't know if there was other avenues.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I was having much the same thought. You if you approve it at 7.3, and everybody does their budget, now you've got a budget presented to the townspeople, and it isn't gonna take them very long to figure out, looking at the book, the wage increase that the employees just got. But they're gonna swallow it because it was a cost of living increase, and they're all gonna be aware of that because it's gonna be nationally on the news, in the paper, and they'll just kinda go, oh, nothing we can do about that. But if you use that platform now to address bringing the employees up, their wages up, the way that we've discussed a little bit, but haven't got a plan in place, and say you made that the number you use for cost of living increase is you're adding, you're giving it 15%. Don't go 7, go 15. So
Which would really be a
word-
compensation adjustment versus
Yeah.
a cost of living
Yeah.
Right,
adjustment.
so you're
I
gonna
mean,
word
cost
it-
of living adjustments are really intended to keep you treading water. I mean, or, in that,
So now we into semantics, is that just how
No,
you
it's what it is.
word it? So let's just say we decided to go with 15%,
Mhm.
or 20, we'll get real brave. And you
Make a
do
motion.
that and come up
I
with this,
think you're weirding Mr. Bell out.
obviously this number over
I've been
here,
down this path before.
this number's gonna increase. But now you've told the department heads, when they do their wages, they now have a number to work with, and that's what will come out in the budget process, is what that is.
Correct.
But that too also has to get approved at the town meeting.
Correct. I mean, that would go through the process of going through the department heads, through my review, through the board's review, and through the budget committee's review.
Yep, and then-
And, through all those perspectives, that would be adjusted to what was felt was reasonable and prudent for the town, and then that recommendation would be presented on the warrant to the people. But I will say one thing, that all the town managers that I've talked to in the area, all of them, no one can get people, and they can't even offer enough money. And we're seeing that with everything, police, fire, public works, truck drivers in Jay are $22 an hour and they can't get anyone.
Yeah, can't get an application.
Which is amazing.
Well, it's all on Josh, because I hesitated to say anything, but he brought it up. So if you,
It's not the first time.
let me say it this way, if you
Broad shoulders.
vote in the 7.3%, it seems palatable and the town will accept it and they'll swallow it and that'll pass at town meeting. All right, but then you come back and we meet during the budget process and address the fact that we're trying to retain people, pay the people what they're worth,
Yep.
and throw that amount of money into the budget. That's where the townspeople will have a tendency to start to decide they wanted to cut something. They think that's too high. So like, if it's worded as a COLA, they won't frig with it. If you do the COLA and then do a wage increase, it's all gonna just show as a wage increase. Am I not,
I
am I
suppose
not
it could
correct
be
in that?
set as separate warrant articles.
It
No.
could be, but would have to be, because each wage increase would be, I would think, would be person specific. It's not gonna be a blanket, not a 10%
Correct.
for every employee raise or something like that. I'm not going 20. But, yeah, I mean, it would definitely have to be worded differently, and it would have to be, I don't know if we would actually,
You don't want to try to slice your warrant articles and sub-budgets down in that manner.
no.
No.
If we have
You know,
And then we're waiting for you to give us some review on salary review, some options on different healthcare practices and whatnot. That all needs to be mixed into the bundle, and that's gonna be part of personal services for every department
Yep.
heads,
Yep.
which may or may not include an increase
Yeah.
for their supervisor or department head.
And I am reviewing the previous compensation study to just see what their approach was, to this. Some, well, pardon the pun, detective work on the police department's part in regards to wages and some of the other competing departments has proved interesting.
Yep.
But, I think that's a good point.
Well, we could just give them a 20% raise.
No, I like
Just go with Mike's
I like
idea.
Steve's perspective on this. I think what needs to be done is we need to get information. I think we just work on the COLA tonight, and then when it comes back, I'm sorry I got this conversation all started.
Yeah.
Anyways, talk about it, and I think it's more beneficial to the town to look to see who is kind of behind, because it's happened at the county level where some of the pay levels for county employees were actually really high, higher than any other part of the state, and other parts were really low. So they didn't just give a 5% for everybody, they
Looked at each
these
position.
people, right, they were pay scales, and
You gotta
but
look
I-
at position class
You
and
have
then
to.
individuals
and then,
Yeah.
of course, I've always been, also should be based off performance, but that's how I've always been, so.
which is another topic we'll
As opposed
we'll
to
tackle this
across the
next year.
board, everybody gets something. But anyways.
And Mr. Landry did ask what the impact of the COLA would be on the wages for the town, and that number's listed there, just over 177,000.
Yep.
Which actually could be a lot worse. That number didn't scare me quite as much as I thought it was gonna.
Right, the 7.3 sounds
Yeah,
scary.
the 7.3, you get really scared at, then you see an actual number, and it's like, I mean, it's bad now, I'm not saying that.
It's real money.
Not deserved, but it is,
We just cut the budget
it's
somewhere else.
palatable
Yeah.
for most. So.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's what we're working on.
All right, any more comments, questions, concerns? All in favor? Unanimous, thank you very much for that.
Did you like that
Thank
idea?
you.
Does that include selectmen?
I think it should. We have to vote on that?
You do.
Some point.
But it is funny, I was looking at that today on the,
We'll talk about that later.
Mike's always the man with the plan. He's our representative.
He's our union representative.
He is. A non-union representative. Moving on to item number 5, it's the grant blanket approval to Farmington Elks Lodge 2430 for Beano Bingo and Games of Chance for a period of 1 year from January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve,
Yeah. number
blanket
5.
approval for Farmington Elks for Beano and everything else they want to do, games-wise. All in favor?
For small town politics, I'll have to declare my allegiance to both the Elks and the next item. Not that that has biased my vote.
No.
You can be biased.
Item number 6 is to grant blanket approval to Roderick-Crosby Post 28 American Legion, which I happen to be the commander of, for Beano Bingo and Games of Chance for a period of 1 year from January 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022.
So moved.
And seconded. Any other questions, comments? If not, all in favor? Unanimous? You voted, Scott, you just didn't know it. So, moving along to item number 7 is to accept the donation of $4,000 from the Seth Westcott Franklin County Chamber of Commerce and place the funds into the Parks and Rec Department Skateboard Park Reservation Reserve account.
So moved.
Second.
With our thanks.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Thank you,
There's a
Seth.
motion and a second to accept the $4,000 donation from Seth Westcott, Franklin County Chamber of Commerce, to be placed in the
did we just do that?
Parks and Rec.
Did we do that?
No, that's when we're doing it now.
Oh.
So, all in favor? Oh, what? You got a question?
we all voted in favor, but anyways.
Okay.
I was just gonna ask, does he have a end game total he's looking for?
I don't know that.
Okay.
That's something that probably Matt will be reaching out to him to find out. I mean, I know that, he was involved with some of
No.
the early planning of this.
Right. I meant like Matt in regards to for the skate park. Does he have like a
In terms of like a dollar number
amount,
for,
like before he does
I don't know,
more
I
work
can
to it, or-
ask.
I just was
I
curious.
don't know what the rehab cost of it would be, so,
Okay.
the repair cost.
All right, thank you.
We'll find out. So that's a good idea to know
Been
what
sitting too long, Mike.
what the goal is.
Yeah. And moving along to item number 8, is to approve a cemetery lot conveyance. Who are we conveying to?
The cemetery lot conveyance is to David A. and Cheryl J. Tompkins of 133 Davis Road in Farmington.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion, a second, to approve a cemetery lot conveyance to David and Cheryl Tompkins of 133 Davis Road. All in favor? Oh. Thank you.
I like this part.
This is easy.
I just passed the papers.
Yeah. And item number 9, to approve a municipal quitclaim deed.
The quitclaim deed is for, located at excuse me, for Leiden and,
I
let's
think
see,
that's what their name, Vicky Leiden.
is Vicky the only individual? Yeah, for Vicky Leiden. And, what's the property location on that one?
Fairbanks Road.
Okay, the,
Lot R15012E.
okay, on the Fairbanks Road. I'm getting thrown between our address and her address.
Yeah, they didn't give a road number.
And being in the town of Farmington, so.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second.
That was
Quitclaim
good.
deed. No, all in favor? Thank you. Other business. Item number 10. Anything, Christian?
Yes, I have 2 items. One is that, as part of the budget process, in the Public Works area, we've been discussing the resources that would be necessary to improve snow removal in the immediate downtown area, to reduce the burden on local businesses and improve the safety of citizens. So there will be more detail on that as the budget comes together, but
Okay.
I think that Phil was estimating 2 operators and 2 laborers and perhaps 1 or 2 smaller snow blower pieces of equipment to get in between poles and so on.
So we're above and beyond what we already have.
Correct. So we're looking at what that is, and we'll end up coming to a agreement there. And then, sadly to say, our most recent Boston Post cane recipient, Eva Lindsay, passed away this last week at the age of 104.
Wow.
A long life.
Absolutely.
And so we will be publishing and looking for the next recipient for the Boston Post cane. And
Very nice.
People can stop by, send a letter, an email, what have you, to the town, and we'll
Can we nominate people?
well, they need to be the oldest, so
Mike?
we'll see who the oldest is.
It gets advertised in the newspaper.
Yeah, it gets advertised in the newspaper as well.
All right.
So quickly turn on you. Oh, I feel the love.
Quite often, the residential care or nursing home facilities will call and advise us
Right.
of the
No, absolutely.
potential recipient.
Can't say, my uncle held out for as long as he could. He passed about a month ago. And he actually would have been the next one.
Oh, really?
So Morris Hubby would have been, yeah. So.
So he was, how old was
He was 101.
All right,
So
I thought he broke 100.
Yeah, he tried.
Yeah.
But-
Pay for effort.
True.
So those are the only 2 items at this point that I have, and I guess just third by way of mention and part of the budget process. the request for quotes and options on health insurance have been put out, and we are also looking at the salary and compensation issues as far as total compensation goes.
Have we looked at, and I know we should be in the final year of workers' comp going up. Are we starting to see any of those numbers come in yet?
I think we've got a ways to go on that.
Do we still? Okay.
Do you know when that expires, the workers' comp?
No, so-
Good story for you later.
And one last item, I'm full of other business tonight.
You are, well, that's good.
Better than other things. So the town meeting date for March needs to be pinned down, and the town clerk has proposed Monday, March 28th. And it would be appreciated for just the logistics that need to happen to set that date, so.
Yep. Josh?
Do we want to push it into April, just for the logistics sake? To give a little extra time with the transition of our,
She said March would be fine.
Well, let me throw a different monkey wrench into it.
Sure.
In comparison to last year, our COVID rates are
Through the
breaking
roof.
day by day by day. We
Mhm.
did it by referendum last time. I prefer in person, but the reality is what's going to be the nature of large gatherings in the future? And should we do it, consider referendum again?
I think it's certainly something for discussion and consideration. I mean,
Especially as we get closer.
Yeah, I think the rates right now are very high, and we haven't even begun to really see the impacts of the new variant. And, that to Matt's point, that option should be kept on the table, and I think we can make a determination on that a little bit closer, maybe, end of February or beginning of March.
Just to throw it out there.
No, that's a good thought.
Absolutely.
You have to look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, just from a safety perspective, it's
It's back to
important.
life now, unfortunately.
Sadly, our numbers are worse than the original outbreak.
Yeah.
so back
But we at least need to set a date though.
So back to my original question, do we want to shoot into April? That would give us more time. I mean, there's not like there's anything that's that has to happen in March. I'm just asking the question, like, would it be beneficial to give us a little bit more, or no?
Not
I
from our
don't
perspective.
know. I don't think the numbers, I don't think it would really affect the numbers a whole lot. They don't seem to be, I think even once they level out, they're not gonna be.
People will need that extra 2 weeks for tax time, so.
Yeah. I guess I'm all set with the late March date.
Alright.
I'm not opposed to any other date either for that much, so.
There's no law binding us to March, so.
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
28th.
It's fine.
As long as she
Well,
feels comfortable.
It's good.
As long as we in the budget committee can do due diligence on our homework.
Now that they know what they gotta work with.
Indeed.
So do you think we need a motion on that?
I would say.
We should have one, yeah, I guess.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Then a motion and a second to make March 28th the
Monday.
town meeting date, 2022. All in favor? Opposed? Yep. We have a date. So,
I have no
you got other
other business.
business now? Okay. Steve?
I don't have any real business to go over other than acknowledging another Great Chester Greenwood
Yeah,
event
it
and
was
parade and
fantastic.
whatnot. Glad
Great
to see people
attendance.
put the effort into doing that.
The attendance was pretty amazing.
Yeah,
this
it
year.
was.
Downtown as we marched through was
Yeah.
3 and 4 people deep on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very good.
And the polar bear dip was well attended also.
Was it?
I did see
them.
it. I thought the town manager, that was his initiation, but he didn't show up.
We'll work on that.
That was in the
We'll
contract.
have to do it next year.
That was January 1st.
Well, it's not much colder than June 1st, so.
That's true. You got a point
So
there.
had you been there.
That's all I have, thanks.
Mr.
I'm
Paul?
all set.
I'm all set. Thank you then.
not business, but I have a question for you two gentlemen.
What two?
Gordon Weather, is he all right?
As far as I know, I saw him the other day.
Oh, I haven't seen him around. His pile of bottles is getting awful high up there.
Yeah, I saw him, well, I know December 7th, he did the Pearl Harbor
Okay.
Day. He hasn't been to a bunch of our meetings at the Legion lately.
He hasn't.
I haven't seen him for a while, that's why I was just
Have
wondering.
somebody
I'll give him a phone call, though, just out of
Yeah.
curiosity now.
Yeah, tell him
Yep,
I'm worried about him,
I will.
that he's getting so old. See if
You
he's
tell
eligible.
him, you tell him
See if he's
that.
eligible for the Boston Post cane.
He doesn't live in Farmington, so. Josh.
I apologize. I just thought of it when he asked you that question. Where are we at with the monument on Meeting House Park? World War II monument. Two?
We actually,
Yeah.
we had, because I'm glad, I kind of glad you brought that up. We, 'cause pre-COVID, we just started to work on
Right.
that some.
Right.
And then COVID hit and it just kind of everything tanked. And it's funny because the Garden Club has been reaching out to me lately.
And me
And
as well.
they want to be a part of, they want to be a part of the design process too. So I think it's, with this now, I think, I'll get back a hold of Kent as well, Kent Wiles.
We did have a committee, I believe, that
We
was
did.
set up
We
with
had a
that,
small one.
Perhaps that could be resurrected and.
Yep, and maybe start to move this forward again. It's a good idea. 'Cause
Yeah,
we
and it
do need
needs-
to,
it
because it
needs to
certainly
be
didn't get
done.
any better.
No,
Yeah,
I
it
just
didn't.
wasn't sure where we were last. It's been forever, so
Yeah.
I just happened to think of it when he asked you to, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember why.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, actually,
good.
I'll ask Kent about that actually tomorrow.
Particularly if something gels, not to rush it, but if something gels that needs to be an appropriation, can be put on a town warrant
Mm.
meeting, that would be a good timing for that as opposed to a general fundraiser.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
And I know that there is, in addition to what format the actual monument would take, there's been a few concerns regarding a few name spellings, so I don't know if that's something the Historical Society or Legion might be able to help with.
That, and I know one of the explorations, which is getting to be quite popular now, is to omit the names. Keep them in public records somewhere, but just because I don't think there's ever been one design that there wasn't a misspelling, a misprint,
True.
just because that's just the way that seems to go.
Yeah.
But that's something obviously we'll look at as we move down the road. So. The only thing, I got one question. Has the budget committee done have they had their initial meeting yet?
No, that meeting is scheduled for.
20th.
Okay. I happen to know one of the budget committee members, and so
Yep.
he was.
Have the initial meeting then, and we basically, I think that's maybe a week or two past when it was last year, and in January, we'll be right back on track.
Yes, no, it's just normally in December
Couple days.
sometime.
Couple days. It was
Yeah.
like 16th last year, and we're doing it the 20th this year.
Yeah, I just, normally it's in December sometime, just
Yep.
usually they start getting chomping at the bit to go, so. But- And then, other than that, I just have just a Merry Christmas to everybody. We won't see you guys again,
That's right.
but,
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
Happy Hanukkah,
yeah.
happy Diwali,
happy Halloween.
happy Halloween.
Oh.
A little late for that.
Yeah.
Happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate, maybe a happy time of the year with family.
Have at it. So, we don't have anything else coming from the board. Jen, motion?
So moved.
And a second,
Second.
Dave? Been a motion and a second to adjourn. I'm not gonna ask Mike, so all in favor?